Hi everybody. So here we are, Real Talks Part 4. And as you can see, we're on the other side, which is awesome. So once again, I know we've said it on Facebook and social media, just want to tell everybody how appreciative we are for the support and the love and the prayers and the energy to help get us through this. It was quite the intense experience. So, and that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit on this video, was my experience kind of from the beginning leading up to the procedure, what I remember, and the experience afterwards. First and foremost, I gotta say that the VA up at San Francisco and their neurological team were absolutely incredible. From start to finish, it was amazing how supportive the entire staff was, from the surgeons to the nurses to the anesthesiologists to the director of nursing, that was the charge nurses that were in there. Boy, crazy. But we're through it, and that's awesome. So I guess where to start? Last we talked, we had been scheduled to head up to San Francisco. We had our flights arranged and made those flights up there. It was pretty uneventful. Got in on a, where did we fly up, Sunday? Yeah, got up on a Sunday. The VA didn't have rooms for us, so we did have to make our own accommodations for a hotel. So we did get some last minute rooms at a Marriott downtown San Francisco area.
But that worked out because we ended up in the same hotel with Mom and Grandma.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that worked out.
It was actually better that way in some ways. Also had a nice little restaurant and stuff inside the hotel that they could hang out afterwards, because unfortunately California, especially being under the strict COVID they still have going on there in California in general, and then it being a VA hospital, they got to abide by federal rules. There was no overnights. Brittany couldn't spend the night with me. So, at any rate, the first day, Monday, was a bit of a whirlwind. Started off with a very long and extensive MRI there. It took me probably the better part of almost an hour, 45 minutes to go through the MRI in the morning, which included contrast, which my body doesn't respond well to. I flush out pretty bad to it. It makes me feel...
I don't think anyone's does, really.
Yeah, it made me feel pretty ill afterwards. But they were pretty quick to go over the results and found that although the tumor hadn't grown, it was still there, it was still abnormal, and they wanted to move forward with the procedure. So then the rest of the day was spent racing from one appointment to the next in the hospital.
We memorized that campus, y'all.
Yeah, we could get around it pretty well from beginning to the end. By the time we got out of there, we knew every nook and cranny to get around in that spot. But yeah, expect a long day in the hospital. We ended up meeting with the anesthesiologist, working with the neurological team to do the physical workups, making sure that everything was in place for what to expect as far as the procedure. In fact, Dr. Lim learned that we were actually on campus, and that afternoon made time for us to actually come up to his own personal office to talk about what he was going to plan on doing and what the team was going to be executing the following day. So you end up spending the better part of almost, I think we were, 13 hours there?
No, but it was a full day.
It was a full day.
It was a full, 9-hour work day.
Yeah. And you ended up going back to the hotel, and and then the next morning was surgery. It was
6 a.m. check-in.
6 a.m. arrival, very bright and early.
So it wasn't even freaking bright.
No. needless to say, I didn't sleep much. I wouldn't expect anybody to sleep much the night prior. One, I was still suffering from a lot of the pain and you're immediately off of all of your, no drinking, no pain pills, all that stuff has got to go. Anything that can cause any type of possible bleeds, all that is instantly gone, which doesn't help, obviously, since you've been self-medicating up to that point, to all of a sudden just the night prior have nothing to deal with.
They gave him melatonin.
They did give me melatonin. Didn't do much. Any rate, so the next day you get into the hospital, you get checked in, they take you up to the surgery room, and unfortunately they don't let anybody back in for the pre-op either. So
It was bye-bye from there.
Yep. So it happens in a whirlwind. It's kind of like they call your name, you say goodbye to your loved ones, and you're pulled into the back room. And once you get back there, the staff back there are very, very, all the pre-op nurses and stuff like that were very accommodating. Obviously, you got to get into all of your surgery gowns and garbs. All your stuff has to be checked in, so they take all of your shoes and shirts and pants and underwear and all that stuff. You got to put on your stockings and your little hat and your gown, and then
Your party hat.
your party hat, get yourself into your bed. Then it's just a lot of sitting around waiting. I spent probably about a good 40 minutes in there before the actual chaos started to happen. And boy, when it comes in a flurry. So ultimately, the first person I met was the anesthesiologist. Came in, just asked a bunch of questions, typical, health questions and allergies and stuff like that, expectations of what to expect once we get in there. I told them that, I wanted them to let me know prior to them actually putting me out. I really wanted that moment in my own head to kind of be like, okay, I'm going out. I'm aware that this is the moment that I'm going to be put out, so that for me, consciously, it gave me a little bit of a sense of control, because I definitely didn't want to just all of a sudden be in there and the next thing you know, you're out. So it was a bit of a crazy show there for a minute. Getting prepped sucks. They have to come in. They got to set up all the IV lines. They get all that set up first, so you get stuck. And I ended up with both hands, one in my right arm, and then they got to come in and do this one that monitors your actual heart
And blood pressure.
It's
your arterial line.
Your arterial line. That one, it sucks. So they come in, they numb you up. It doesn't matter. It hurts. They got to use this little sonar thing that allows them to be able to see where your artery is. And they bring in this nasty needle, and it goes into your wrist, and they got to fish that thing around. And tell you what, you sit there and chew on your tongue for a minute while they try to get that thing in. And that ended up being quite a mess. They didn't get it locked. I ended up squirting blood all over the place. It was quite the show. Ultimately, after they get you all set up, the doctors show up and they introduce themselves again. You've already met them at this point. So they just start talking about it's kind of interesting because they have a team now down at your feet, and they've got this big book, and they're going through the procedures, and they're talking about how and where they want everything lined up, how they want my head set up, like literally how they're going to have my skull prepped in order for him to get access to the tumor. All this conversation's kind of happening right there in front of you, and you're not part of that conversation, but you're listening to it, which is kind of crazy, as you hear them talk about how they want the lines run, where they want their scopes to be at, where the tools are going to be set up, how he wants my head, actually drilled into. He wanted me to be head up for this one since it was at the top right side of my head here. So they're talking about where the screw points are going to be going into your side of your head to hold you steady. it's quite the intense conversation while you're sitting there, and they're still trying to. The anesthesiologist at this point is still trying to talk to you as well, trying to get you kind of ready for what's going on. After they do all that, you sign a bunch of consent forms. Obviously, they still got to go through all the documentation that tells you that, hey, you know, this is still a risk. It's still brain surgery. You know, it's not expected, but there is a small chance you don't come out the other side. So you get all that paperwork signed. You go through all that, and then it goes from in your face to just 0 to 100, back to 0 again. So then they come in and they say, okay, it's time. And they, in my experience, this was kind of crazy. So they wheel you down into the surgery room. So you go down the halls, you're going past all the different rooms, you're trying to peek in to see if you see anybody else inside these rooms getting prepped as well. You get into the room, it's intense. It is just massive lights everywhere, just instrumentation that you have no idea what you're looking at. It's pretty overwhelming. You're on the gurney, they got to move you over to the surgery table, which, by the way, is a very small table. So they're trying to scoot me over onto this thing. And unfortunately, because of the artery line that they had put in, I had bled all over the place. So they had to degown me, scrub me, regown me right there on the table. And they're getting me started ready. The nurses are in there, the anesthesiologist is in there. And they're like, okay, you know, we're going to start getting you prepped. And the whole thing gets called off at a stop. And I'm like, what the hell is going off? And they call the whole thing, like, stop. Luckily, the anesthesiologist was really cool about it. He says, look, I don't want to freak you out and try to tell you, but we're going to pull you back out of the room. Oddly enough, of all things, there was an electrical outlet that had come loose in the room, up in the ceiling, that was exposing a hole into the surgery room, which obviously contaminated or could contaminate the operating room. So they had to get me back onto the gurney, call for the maintenance team to come in. So I'm wheeled back to the room again, back to the pre-op room, where I sat there for another 30, 40 minutes or so, just waiting for them to get it fixed, for them to come and grab me again and wheel me back into the room. And they're like, okay, this time it's a go.
For sure this time.
For sure this time.
We mean it.
We mean it, yeah. So at any rate, boy, so then it's kind of crazy. They put me on which I don't know what was going on, but this is just my experience. I'm sure this, you know, everybody's is different. And but they started to put the oxygen on me, but the oxygen wasn't flowing. So they put this thing over my mouth, and I'm like a goldfish out of water. I can't breathe. So I'm sitting there like in this thing, and I'm tapping on the nurse, like trying to tell her I can't breathe, and they're like pulling the thing off, and they're looking at it, and they're like holding it up, and they're like, "There's no oxygen coming out."
We did start off with how great the team was.
Yeah, the team
right?
was awesome, right? Yeah,
We started
yeah.
off with that.
But like anything in life, nothing goes as planned or as smoothly as you expect.
Heaven forbid.
Right. So, any rate, so they get that fixed. They get the oxygen back on me. They did say, hey, we're going to give you something to start calming you down. Obviously, my pulse was through the roof. I could see my own numbers. My blood pressure was crazy. They're trying to bring that down, get me back into kind of solid numbers again before they wanted to officially put me out. As they're doing that, they're also kind of moving you around on the table, getting you kind of set up where they want your head located, which is kind of crazy. Getting you covered with all kinds of blankets. They're putting all these little things underneath your knees, your feet. They're just trying to get you comfortable.
Wow.
Obviously, being a bigger guy, they're trying to swing out these little arm things for your arms to lay on, because you've got all these lines now being hooked up to you. As you're laying there, there's just IV lines being plugged into everything. You're just looking at yourself and you're just starting to turn into a spider web. It's pretty wild, to be honest. Yeah, and then they said it's time. And
Night night.
yeah, the nurse comes up. She was really cool. She started just kind of rubbing my chest, saying, "Okay, you know, it's this is where you're gonna go out. We'll see you on the other side." So the anesthesiologist comes up. He starts to push the anesthesia
Sedative.
the sedative into you. It burns. You know it's coming. You try to fight it. I try to fight it. I think
Futile.
Yeah, futile. I think if I was trying to count back to from 100, I may would have gotten to 97. I don't think that's as far as I would have even have gotten if I was even consciously counting. And then the next thing you know, it's just bright lights and just rushing. Like I remember them being behind the gurney, running me down the hallway. And I remember them saying, "Hey, look to the left. Your family's on the left side." I remember seeing Grandma and Mom and Brittany standing there.
Waiting. Every cart, because they told us ICU was just to the left of the family waiting room, and he was coming from the ASU.
Yeah.
So we knew he was gonna come in the bed. Every cart, every walker, everything with wheels that we heard in the hallway were.
Yeah. It's a relief.
Yeah.
When you wake up on the other side, it's a relief. It's scary.
Scary for both sides. They didn't let me know that they started 2 hours late. So here I am,
Yeah.
8 hours in. I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was out, bright lights, and we're rolling, you know, and that's crazy to think that you guys have sat there for like 8 hours. I mean, just coming out the other side, what a relief to see.
Did you like consciously think, holy crap, I'm awake now? Like,
Yeah, like there was definitely a moment where when I woke up, I was like, oh my God, I'm back.
yeah.
Like, because when I told him I wanted to know I was going out, I had that moment of like, okay, you kind of have to accept the fact that they're going to be in your brain. I mean, it's crazy. So, you know, they're professionals and they do this every day, but, you know, let's be honest, shit happens. And boy,
So why did you want to know why did you want that moment? Like, just in case, or?
I think just to kind of give myself that sense of reality, like just like you have that sense of, okay, I may be going to sleep and this may be it, you know, kind of moment, you know, like just that last thought of chance to think about everybody and who you love and why you're there. At any rate, so into the ICU you go.
Now that the relief has
Yeah.
faded a little bit, now the physical stuff starts setting in.
Yeah, this is where it kind of gets crazy too. So I don't know what it was, but something about the procedure set my potassium off like crazy high.
9,
Yeah, what's normal?
3.5 to 5.
3.5 to 5. My potassium was at a level 9. They were extremely worried that I was going to go into a cardiac arrest. I remember being wheeled.
arrhythmia.
Or arrhythmia, yeah. They were all over me with all kinds of. They were like, as soon as I got in there, the entire ICU team was in my room, like trying to pump me with. I think I was taking insulin. I don't even know what they were.
Yeah,
shoving
the
into.
treatment is insulin with obviously glucose backer and calcium.
Yeah. So they got that stabilized.
Yep.
And then they let Brittany come in, which was,
They were doing your insulin and glucose when I was in there.
yeah, it was, good to have family be able to come in. It's important to have that support when you're in there. It's so chaotic, and you're just a big spider web of hoses and stuff. If you guys are friends on Facebook, you've seen some of the photos of me tied up to all my bags. It's crazy. The nursing staff there, phenomenal. They had me on we're 20 minutes already off to, we'll speed this up a little bit.
We're filming again.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think we need to. This is fine. It'll be a little longer. Sorry, I don't want to make these too long, but get to the point. Ultimately, once you're in ICU, they take really good care of you. I was on a Dilaudid drip, and I could get 3 milliliters every.
He had a PCA.
Yeah, every 10 minutes. It was like a video game. There was something on the TV. I couldn't tell you what it was.
Bright colors.
Yeah, all I know is every 10 minutes I would hear the little machine go clink, and then I could push that little green button and feel the little Dilaudid drip come in. And you don't sleep the first night at all, which is crazy. You would think with all the drugs you're on, you'd be out, but I didn't sleep at all. I literally just stared at whatever was on the TV and pushed that little green button. Yeah, so at any rate, made it through the first night. Actually, the first night wasn't that bad. It was the second night where it kind of got a little bit more rough. The second day, I was supposed to go back in for MRI, and I was unable to keep any food down, any fluids down.
Not even water.
I couldn't even keep water down. I was sick. I was super sick. I was just.
Zofran wasn't fixing it.
Zofran couldn't touch it. They were trying to do everything.
And then the hiccups started.
Oh God, yeah, the hiccups came in, and then that was just misery. Yeah. So, at any rate, I got stuck an extra day in ICU because they just couldn't get me to keep any food or water down or anything like that. Luckily, by the end of the second day, I was starting to feel a lot better as far as just food-wise. I could eat a little bit of eggs, and my sodium, of all things, was way low. They ended up like giving me sodium in my milk. It was really strange. And oddly enough, because my body wanted it, it kind of tasted good. Yeah, it was just a bizarre thing altogether. I'll tell you what, for anybody that spent more than 4 or 5 days in the ICU, props to you. It is miserable. The second night, I started to have a bit of a panic attack.
He told me he was going to run away.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. You feel trapped. You can't move, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I was pissing like a racehorse. I was obviously on a catheter, but I was doing, at one night, they said I was doing...
That was part of getting the potassium off.
Yeah, I was doing 800 milliliters
an
hour. Yeah, they were like, holy crap, I wasn't even taking that kind of fluids in.
Well, yeah, your body trying to get all that off.
Yeah, plus with the contrast, I'm sure it didn't help. I don't respond well to that anyhow. So, at any rate, all I can say is 44 staples later, 1 stitch, and we beat brain cancer. Fucking awesome. And it's all a huge thanks to the support and love from all of you. I'll tell you what, one of the things that helped big time when I was feeling panicked in there, when you're just feeling trapped, and the hoses are attached to you, you can't move, and you're just super uncomfortable. The pillow you can't get the pillow right, the blankets don't feel good, nothing is feeling good. At that point, luckily I had my iPad, and I was able to FaceTime Brittany back at the hotel, and we could just sit there, and she was just doing homework, and I literally just watched her do homework. And I'll be honest, it was fantastic. It was calming. So if you ever have to go in and do something similar, I would definitely highly recommend you take your iPad or electronics that you may have that can allow you to connect to your family while you're stuck in there. They may not be able to come in. But what a crazy, crazy experience. I mean, to check in on a Monday, surgery on a Tuesday. I was checked out of ICU literally a week ago, Friday from today. I was back at the hotel room in downtown San Francisco. Yeah, flight out on Saturday, got home, and since then, again, it's only been a week. And as you can see, within a week, I've already gotten half of my staples out, which is awesome. I go in next week to get the rest of them removed. And all things considered, feeling pretty damn good. I'm going through kind of which to be expected. The doctor said that it could take a month or so for the symptoms to get better. It's like dealing with a concussion. If any of you have ever done sports of any kind, you've hit your head, whether it be in football or motocross or whatever else.
Or even like a car accident.
Yeah, like a car accident. It's a traumatic brain injury, obviously. They were inside your brain. So, I feel the first few days were worse. Very disoriented, disconnected. Some of that was the medications, anti-seizure medication they put you on, makes you feel real loopy. Honestly, though, pain level is a minimal. I still can't determine whether or not my headaches are completely gone yet. I'm still dealing with some head pains that I'm taking medication for. But ultimately, it's just I have to be a little bit conscious about putting my thoughts together. Trying to be focused, like to read a book, is not happening right now. So I'm spending a lot of time on the couch, resting, sleeping, going through all of YouTube, eating. I've gotten my appetite back, which is great.
You got about 20 pounds to put back on him.
Yeah, I've been losing the weight since I got out of it, but that's okay. I've got a follow-up on May 8th with my neuro team. They're going to let me know what the biopsy results were.
Right, the pathology.
What the pathology was of the actual tumor, and whether or not there'll be any additional treatments that I need to go through.
Like radiation.
Right.
They don't think so, but we'll find out for sure.
We're pretty confident. He said he was very confident that he got like 99% of it. He said that it started to get down towards my optical nerve a little bit and that he didn't want to go all the way through, but the doctor felt that he had gotten pretty much everything. So at this point, a success, absolute success. So so now it's just the anticipation of hearing the results and what I'm looking at doing for treatment going forward. So next time we're on here, we'll have had that conversation and update you on what that next steps are. So again, love you all very much. Couldn't have done it without your support.
No, at all.
It was a huge, huge push to help me get through this.
Stuff like that takes a village too.
It does, absolutely. And I just gotta wait for this hair to grow back.
It's coming.
It's coming. Love you all. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.